Good evening, my darlings. Welcome to Wellness Naturally, our next episode. I am joined by the lovely Anne Callahan and the wonderful Dr. Corey Stern and myself, Danny McKinney. And we got some stuff to talk about tonight. It just seems that Mother Nature decided to make it really, really relevant today. We're going to do things a little differently than we usually kind of do, because we're going to be talking about solar flares and geomagnetics and cosmic rays and ultraviolet and all those things that come in and pound us from outside of our planet. Pardon me, now my dog's going to shake. Can you go lay down, please? Lay down. Just go lay down. I may have to move him. I may have to put him in the other room because he's being really annoying, but whatever, that's okay. A lot of people don't comprehend. Now, anyone who follows my shows, I talk about the solar stuff and have been talking about solar physics and heliobiology, etc., for a very, very long time. But for a lot of people joining in new groups, as we're all kind of bringing all these lovely groups together, it's a topic that not a lot of people understand. So I'm going to try and be short and succinct. We're going to talk a little bit about solar physics, how our planet works, our geomagnetic shields in the planet, etc. And I'm going to talk about the physical ramifications of solar flares and solar weather in general. So I want to start off with a little brief aside on this. We have a lot of people who have various belief structures. And I get a lot of questions, and I've had a lot of questions from people talking about the sun. And basically, there's a lot of people out there who don't believe that the sun is, they basically think of it as a big giant light bulb in the sky. That's it. It's just a big light bulb in the sky. So therefore, they kind of want to just poo-poo all of the solar physics stuff that we're going to talk about today. So I just want to open with this. When we talk about solar physics, I'm going to be talking about the physical ramifications. I'm going to be talking about the very measurable and quantifiable, if you will, things that are coming in. Now, whether you want to believe that the sun is a big, giant, burning ball of gas, or whether you want to believe that it's a really fancy light bulb, doesn't matter. The effects that we have and we observe from the sun are very, very well studied. And it's not just studied by people like NASA. So if you are in the group of, never a straight answer, this isn't NASA stuff. When we talk about solar physics and the physical outcomes of what happens during various solar events like solar flares and coronal mass ejections, geomagnetic storms, etc., and I'll explain these in a second. These have been studied for hundreds, if not thousands of years. We have very, very old documents where people used to watch the sun, and they would look and they would see solar flares, and they would be able to measure and figure out where the effects of that were going to be felt, to the things of earthquakes, volcanoes, etc., which are all triggered on the physical level of the planet by a lot of these solar energies. So there are solar observatories almost in every country around the world. There are private solar observatories. There are a lot of private citizens who are much like us, who question everything and don't really believe everything that NASA tells us, who have set up their own solar observatories. to watch what's going on and to gather up their own data. So what I'm going to give you as information tonight isn't something that's just coming from NASA. These are things that if you have the money to buy the equipment, you can measure these frequencies, because that's what it is. You can measure these yourself. You get a really good ultraviolet meter that has UVA, UVB, and UVC, which we'll be talking about. You can buy one, and you yourself can measure what those levels are coming in to the planet. Same with geomagnetics. I always warn people not to get caught up in their belief structures to the point that that belief structure disallows them to take in new information, or to take information that's coming in and throw it away because it doesn't fit within the box of a belief structure. So having said that, let's talk about the sun. The sun, and not just our sun. This is the other thing to understand. When we talk about solar physics and we talk about incoming energies, it's not just stuff coming from the sun. We have all kinds of cosmic rays, etc., that are coming in that are way far away from the sun. Our planet has a force field called our geomagnetic shield, which is a magnetic field that protects our planet. The stronger the magnetic field is, the stronger the force field is, the less amount of other things can come in, such as X-rays, gamma rays, ultraviolet, and cosmic rays. Right now, our sun is bombarding us. So quite literally at this moment, when we're talking about right here and now, we are in a pretty, I won't call it a major proton storm, but we're having some pretty good proton storming action going on. And there are physical ramifications to our health from these things. And we're going to talk a little bit specifically about that later on. We, as people, are electrical and magnetic beings. We have our own electrical field. We have our own magnetic field. So when we have all these crazy energies coming in, they directly affect us. Now, when we talk about solar physics, we have things called solar flares. Solar flares are simply like an explosion, an eruption on the sun. And when they blow, they can produce what's called a coronal mass ejection, or a CME. And that sends this massive high-speed cloud of charged particles directly at us. Now, when our geomagnetic field is really, really strong, we are protected from the vast majority of that. But right now, our geomagnetic field is incredibly weak, and it's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. This is a cyclical thing. This is something that happens on major and minor scales. From every few hundred years to every couple of thousand years, we have major events like this, major cycles where the magnetic shield of the planet gets very, very weak. We have lost a staggering 10% of the Earth's geomagnetic field in the last 15 years. That is huge, 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 huge. So because of that, for me, I've been studying solar physics for well over a decade. And back in 2013, 2014, if someone had said to me, oh, there's just been a solar flare, it was like an M class 1. So your classes would be really, really low level Bs. Then you go into a C class solar flare. And then the next level up, if you will, is M class. And then the next level up from that is X class. Now, we had an X class solar flare last week. Luckily, it was not facing Earth, as that spot had just rotated around the other side of the sun. And we had an M-class flare just a few days ago that was very, very high level, almost an X-class flare. And again, luckily, we are getting hit with a bunch of stuff at the moment. So we have a proton storm. We are probably gearing up for a geomagnetic storm right now as the geomagnetic scale's starting to take off. And these are the types of things that we can see. Now, I don't want to get, and I have to, I'm saying to myself right now in my head going, okay, take it back, because we're not going to get into these massive scientific solar physics discussion, because that'll be 2 hours of me talking nonstop. So we have all these energies coming in. We have charged particles from the sun. We have cosmic rays. We have background radiation from the galaxy, which is your X-rays, your gamma rays. All kinds of things are coming in. And as our geomagnetic field gets weaker, we're feeling the physical effects of it on our bodies much, much stronger, much, much stronger. So as I started to say, in 2013, if someone had said to me, oh, we just had a C-class flare, I would have been like, that's a burp. Like, we don't even pay attention to those. Because even just as far back as 10 years ago, the effects of a C-class solar flare were pretty minor, like almost negligible. But in the last 10 years, as our field has dropped even more, we're now feeling C-class flares. We're seeing the ramifications on a physical level of low-level M-class flares in triggering earthquakes and volcanoes and all kinds of things like this. So I'm keeping watch very, very, very carefully at the moment, keeping an eye on the different things that come in. And if anyone who knows me on Facebook, when we have serious solar events going on, I will usually put out a post, and I'll put it out as a warning saying, right, guys, everyone, we are in a solar flare storm. We have a geomagnetic storm. So I'm going to pull up a couple of graphics, because it'll be probably the easiest way for me to kind of somewhat quickly run through the physical bits and pieces on this. Okay, so just give me a moment as I pull up the right graphic. Okay, so this is anyone again who knows me on social media, this is a graphic that I put out all the time. So we have certain things that we're looking at when we talk about solar weather. We're talking about solar flares, which then you're talking about radiation storms, proton storms like we're in right now. We also have what's called a geomagnetic storm. And the geomagnetic storm is when our magnetic shield of the planet goes, whoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Now, the interesting thing when we talk about geomagnetic storms is, if you look up here at the top, you can see our cosmic rays and our geomagnetic storms rating. Sitting in a level 3 is our good spot. Let's call that our sweet spot for geomagnetics. That's about what we would call normal daily geomagnetic strength. As we go into a geomagnetic storm and we hit higher levels like 7s and 8s, we get into very dangerous physical events that can happen. But the flip side of that is when the geomagnetic field falls down to a 0, which it was last night. Last night we were at 0 kp. Kp is the measurement, is the unit of measure, if you will, for geomagnetics. We were at 0 kp last night, just before midnight. That is just as dangerous as an 8 kp geomagnetic storm. And some people, myself, my husband Nick, I feel the 0 kp days much more strongly than I even do when it's in a 7 or an 8. And that's where we feel like, I feel like you feel almost like an adrenaline rush in your gut, and you can feel the heart palpitations. So we're going to talk about this, and we say, what are the risk factors? What are the physical things that happen? So in high-risk patients, it's cardiac, ventricular dysfunction, infraction, arrhythmia, strokes, blood clots, and fluctuations in heart rate and blood pressure. On the psychiatric, because it's not just physical, it also affects people mentally. Suicide, anxiety, depression, bipolar episodes, and autoimmune. We see a very strong uptick in arthritis, lupus, glandular issues, which I want to talk about a little bit later. The risks for seizures, migraines, cognitive diminution, i.e., the brain doesn't want to work. And I think we've all talked about this quite a bit recently. Melanin and light-based disorders. So this is the warning I always put out to people. If you're in a high-risk group, to just be aware. Be aware that if we're in a 0 kp day or an 8 kp day, it's being aware, looking out for family and friends, looking out for even your pets, because these things affect your animals as well. So I'm going to shoot over to, nope, not that one. Okay, so this gives you a little bit more detail. Can I make that? Okay, I'm going to have to move my chat. The chat is in the way. I cannot see what I'm trying to see. Okay, so this is a really good indicator for people, right? So geomagnetic storm risks, heart rate, heart attacks and strokes, acute coronary syndrome, blood pressure increases, seizures, migraine risk, anxiety, stress, emotional instability, suicide risk, mental disorder flare-ups, and radiation risk. For example, if you happen to be in an airplane at 50,000 feet and we have a radiation storm, the skin of that airplane does not protect you. And there's a lot of studies ongoing about pilots and people who work on airplanes or taking airplanes all the time, and the risk to cosmic rays, etc., to people who are spending an awful lot of time up in the air during these kind of events. So when we talk about cosmic ray risks, again, very much all this very, very similar. Solar flare. Digestive disorders is a big one. A lot of people get a very upset stomach, heartburn, all over. For example, if you have irritable bowel, all of a sudden that just seems to just go kapoof and flare right up. Visual impairments, issues with eyesight, blurring of the vision, etc. And of course, emotional instability as well. So there is, and I was just joking with everyone before we went live saying, I have loaded up 32 different studies which I'll just flip and show you, just to give you an idea, a baseline. We are finally really starting to see science take heliobiology and the effects of solar flares and geomagnetic storms and cosmic rays far, far more seriously. And we've seen in the last 10 years, a lot more studies coming out. In things like sudden infant death syndrome, sudden cardiac death. This is a big one, very, very big one. Days of zero geomagnetic activity accompanied by high neutron activity and what the physical effects are. So acute myocarditis is one of the major effects of 0 kp days. That was very shocking to a lot of people who only thought of it as the high-level geomagnetic storms as being the problem. I have, again, an unbelievable amount of studies. I have quite a collection. This is just a few things that I had downloaded myself just to have on hand in case anyone had some questions they wanted to ask. We have a lot of background studies. And the studies come not just from your NASA's. There's a lot of studies coming out now that are even 5 years ago were getting kind of blackballed because it kind of went against the norm. It went against the accepted science that there's now starting to come out. One of the big ones, and it's one of the studies I actually have on the screen I didn't show you guys, is the correlation between COVID-19 and solar weather, or specifically pandemics. Now, a lot of people would go, like, that just doesn't make any sense. I've lost the chat entirely now. I can't even bring the chat back. There we go. One of the reasons why, and we can, there's a multitude of historical studies out there showing that there is a direct correlation between solar activity, whether it's solar minimums and solar maximums in the cycle, with pandemics, plagues, etc. And we can pretty much track back almost every major plague outbreak, that a lot of them happen within this kind of solar weather, if you will. So does it affect our immune system? I'd say most definitely, in a lot of different ways. And I will, as we break down into and start discussing the specific physical pieces, I'll get into some of this a little bit more detailed. But that is a basic breakdown. So I hope, Corey, I'm going to ask you, was I relatively clear on this? Is there anything you want to ask me to clarify? Because like I said, the problem is, for me, chopping it down into small pieces, it's very difficult for me to keep it in focus. So do you have any questions for me?
I'm putting pieces together as you're talking. So for example, when you just said about how it affects your immune system, and I'm thinking about the effects of radiation is actually a toxin, and that will end up putting stress on the immune system. That makes sense. And we've talked about how many incidences I've been seeing of sudden onset of AFib, atrial fibrillation, which is an arrhythmia of the heart. But I'm also seeing a huge number of weird rashes. And every day there's more people coming in with weird rashes. So I'm putting the pieces together as you're speaking. It's like starting to make sense to me, but also the observation of the actual effects of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that, so for example, and I will touch on this a little more specifically, so everyone knows about UV. Like it's pounded into us. Oh, put on your sunscreen. The sun's going to give you cancer. And so we have two well-known, UVA and UVB. And they talk about it in the news all the time when they're telling you to put on your toxic sunscreens. What a lot of people aren't aware of is there is another level of ultraviolet light called UVC. And in classic science, the big boys will tell you, oh no, we don't need to worry about UVC because it cannot penetrate our atmosphere. It can't. It just can't. Except that it is. And we have multiple studies that have come out, all by independents, all by people who are trying to wake up the scientific community to, hey, dudes, we have UVC at ground level now. We have meters who are now picking up UVC at ground level. Because UVC doesn't hit ground level, it's never really been studied in its effects on human biology, except that UVC, artificially created UVC, is used in hospitals to sterilize. It's used to sterilize instruments, etc. So when we say sterilize, let's put this into perspective. We're talking about killing all the unwanted bacteria, right? So one of my theories I've had for the last few years especially is that if we're getting pounded by this UVC, what is that doing to our good bacteria, right? Because antibiotics and UVC, they just kill bacteria. They don't care if it's good, bad, it doesn't matter. It unilaterally just wipes it out. So we're seeing a lot of people who are dealing with stomach problems. Well, when you start talking about having your bacteria in your stomach, the good bacteria that helps you digest your food, which helps support the communication between this brain and this brain, when all of a sudden that becomes crippled, we see a whole lot of health issues that come out of that. Now that, look at, I can't prove that. That is just myself, my own personal hypothesis, that if we are getting bombarded with UVC, that it could be killing off. And this is, for me, personally, I'm seeing a whole lot of things like fungal infections. I'm seeing a whole lot of, well, when we have candida overgrowths and we have fungal infections, a lot of times that comes from one of these massive imbalances in our system, i.e. like when all your good gut flora is eaten off and burned out, then the candida goes boom and has a big party. Is that part of it? Could very well be. The problem is like I said, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about with heliobiology, with the effects of solar energies, for lack of a better word, on human anatomy, it's not really well studied. It's only kind of been in the last 10 years that science is starting to. And it's really funny because you get a lot of it is based towards like astronauts. Well, you know, this and this and this is happening way up there, so we got to watch out for our astronauts, because there's a lot of interesting symptoms that astronauts come back down to Earth with. And whether you want to believe that whole stuff or not, regardless, the studies of what happens to these guys when they come back, very, very interesting things. And changes to the eyeball and the corneas is one of the major ones. So again, is that a UVC thing? Because UVC does strongly affect the eyes. I don't know. So there's a lot of pieces to this that it's very, very difficult. One of the things I talk about all the time is I don't believe that we have the right measuring sticks. We have a few measuring sticks for what's coming into the planet from people like NASA and NOAA and all these various highfalutin scientific organizations. We use their measuring sticks, their graphs, etc., to give us a better understanding. But it is very obvious to those of us who've been like at this for a long time that there are other energies coming in that we don't have measuring sticks for. We have measuring sticks to tell us about how many X-rays are coming in, how many gamma rays are coming in, how much ultraviolet's coming in, how many other types of cosmic rays are coming in, proton storms, neutrinos. We have those measuring sticks, but it's very obvious. And we have a lot of new articles that are coming out in the last year where we have scientific articles going, oh yeah, we discovered the most high-powered energy particles hitting the planet last month that we've ever seen, to the factor of like 1,000,000 times more powerful than anything we've ever seen before. And we get these studies come up, and I'm like, and I repeat again, we don't have the measuring sticks, because we find out about this sometimes. So the one incident that we had in June, we didn't find out about it until October, when someone put out a paper saying, oh, by the way, it took us 6 months to put this together, but here, look what happened. So there is a lot of energies coming in, and we don't know what the physical ramifications is. And this is why, in like my group, in the Unfuckers group, we have been talking and sharing information about symptoms for a long time. Since 2016, like we had ongoing discussions about symptoms that are common, because we can look at things and say, when a whole pile of people start having a specific symptom, like a skin rash, and there are people in Australia, Malaysia, Canada, England, Germany, and Alaska, well, it's not a local thing. It has got to be something more predominant than that. So yeah, we're kind of in a lot of ways trying to figure this stuff out by ourselves because the mainstream science isn't quite there yet. So it means that we have to do our own research. And then for myself, you read these heavy duty papers and physics papers and then have to start taking them apart and pulling out the relevant information and saying, well, that's really interesting because that would then affect our immune system or our heart system, etc. So if you guys there, Anne, Anne's been along this journey for me. She's listened to me ramble about solar physics for better part of a decade. But I'm asking Corey, like, if you have any other questions or anything you want to ask or bring up, because you don't know this stuff, then I will have an idea if there's more detail I should go into.
I listened to you talk about this in an Unfuckers group meeting a couple of months ago. That was my first exposure to it. And you did a really good job explaining it. So I had like a foundation of understanding. And now I just learned a little bit more. I'm interested in those information sheets you put up. I'd like to actually have them so I can refer to them. But, of course, in my field, what I'm mostly interested in is addressing the effects and prevention of the damage that it's causing. Yeah.
Is support systems, right? Like, and this is, and I think I touched on this, I think in one of the Unfuck It discussions in the last couple of weeks. We have a problem within the kind of the truther community that there's kind of a bit of an arrogance there of like, oh, well, I didn't take that thing in 2021, so therefore I'm going to be
safe.
okay. I'm safe. Well, there has been a lot of people I know of who have died suddenly who did not have it.
Yeah.
And this is one of the pieces that we have to be aware of. It's a time where we have to be aware of our health and do what we can to support our systems. And sometimes that awareness comes into things like as simple as one of the big things I tell people is like, it's a 0 kp day, lots of water, lots and lots of water, get a little extra salt in you, get some sea salt into you, make sure you're well hydrated, because on a very broad spectrum, as Corey will say, like hydration is one of the first things we can do to help our body kind of maintain its balance, right? A little good quality sea salt, some really good quality, proper, clean, filtered, not tap water, can go a long way. And the other one is get in the tub. Like I literally last night was just almost floored. I was in bed by 11 o'clock last night, which never happens. And it was only, those graphs are 4 hours behind. So it wasn't until I woke up this morning when, oh, we were in 0 kp last night. That would be why I was like, I got to go to bed. I got to go to bed right now. Having a bath really helps. Like if it's a daytime thing and you're feeling a lot of this, however it feels, whether it's anxiety and stress and all of a sudden anger. Anger is a big one that comes up when we have a lot of these solar flare type symptoms on the mental. Road rage goes through the roof. That is a scientifically proven fact. Get in the bath, lots of sea salt, put some Epsom salt, and just, it seems to support our own frequencies. It feels like to me that it helps our bodies to kind of rebalance, maintain a little more equilibrium, wash that energy off, if you want to look at it that way. Yeah. Morag, give us that question when we get to the question and answer part, because I do want to address that, but I don't want to get all sideways. So if we look at the symptoms, Corey, and we're talking heart stuff, because that's one of the biggest ones right now. One of the biggest ones I'm seeing as far as, let's say, major symptoms. Major symptoms is, of course, heart. So what's our first, where do we go from there?
I have a quick funny story before I answer your question. I had a patient with a sudden onset of atrial fibrillation recently, and I said privately to my assistant, we had a really bad solar flare. That's probably what happened. I said, don't say that to the patient, though. She's not going to know what you're talking about. She didn't listen to me, my assistant. She calls the patient back and says, oh, we had a bad solar flare. And the patient goes, I don't have any solar flares. I just have a heart problem. So as I anticipated, she had no idea what we were talking about. I knew that was going to happen.
Vast majority of people don't, right?
Right, of course. And I just also want to comment on the Epsom salt bath. I think that, so magnesium, Epsom salt is magnesium, and that's an ion. So it's actually, it's giving you, probably it's giving you, it's rebalancing your electromagnetic field. I think that's what that's doing. And that's why it works so well. If, like me, you don't have a bathtub, then topically applied magnesium oil, magnesium lotion can also be effective. Better to take the bath. Yeah, foot bath. You can soak in it. Mm-hmm.
Get out the old turkey roasting pot, stick it on the floor, fill it with warm water and Epsom salts, and put your feet in it.
Yeah, I was soaking my thumb in Epsom salt for several weeks when I had the thumb infection, and I think I actually felt overall better just sticking my thumb in a cup of Epsom salt water. So we're going to address heart health, so prevention of heart issues and possibly treatment of existing heart issues. There are so many things that can be addressed in terms of symptoms or conditions that can occur because of the solar flares, as we just saw. But we decided to focus on heart because that is, probably one of the more serious causes of sudden death that we're seeing. And like Danny said, I have been seeing people who took the 2021 thing with issues, but I've also been seeing people who have not. I had a friend who was 48 that dropped dead of a heart thing, seemingly healthy person in December. So we are seeing this happen a lot. The prevention is key. So I was going to mention hydration, especially in relation to heart, because your blood is mostly water. So one of the most important jobs of the heart is to pump the blood throughout your body. When you're dehydrated, your blood volume is reduced and your heart has to work harder. Dehydration actually can cause palpitations and an elevated heart rate. So you're just putting a lot of stress on your heart when you're not well hydrated. And putting some good quality salt in your water helps by osmosis to pull the fluid into the cells, including the blood cells, including the cells of the heart. So that is why it is really important to do that. Also, basics, of course, is having a clean, nutrient-dense diet. And it would be great if you're willing to eat heart in order to maintain heart health. I've mentioned this before, like heals like, and eating heart is actually really good for your heart. I am going to show you a couple of supplements that you could take if you don't want to eat heart. The farm that I get my food from, they do have heart, and I eat their ground beef with organs ground into it. So there's some heart in there, heart, kidney, liver, forget what else is in there. But I absolutely notice a difference when I eat that. And then just, all the basics, getting enough sleep and all of those things. You can't out supplement a bad diet. You can't out supplement not getting enough rest, not being hydrated. And obviously moving your body is also really important for heart health. Your heart is a muscle. Let's not forget that. And if you don't use muscles, they become weaker. So, right now, I think probably all of us are sitting for, a 2-hour period. It's really bad for you to sit. It's not biologically compatible with your body. So I have a very hard time sitting. Luckily, I have a job where I move around a lot. I walk many miles every week, just because it's hard for me to park around here. So I'm forced to do it. So that's an advantage. But most people are not, in general, I'm just making a general statement, most people are not moving enough.
Our jobs have become very sedentary, right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
I spend way too much time on the computer. Way too much time sitting on my ass, not moving. And winter is always that much harder because we're indoors. Like most people are not. Like it's summertime, it's lovely. It's spring, it's lovely. You might be gardening, you might be going out for walks, etc. But when it's nasty and miserable, what do? I'm just going to sit here and watch a movie. That's what I'm going to do. And it's a really, really tough one to overcome because it seeps in. You don't realize, and your time sat on your butt increases a little bit, increases, and next thing you know, you're like sitting on your butt for 10 hours a day.
Right. And so my having a dog and not having a yard is also another advantage because I have to walk him.
Yeah.
So no matter what the weather, it was a snowstorm this morning, I had to take him out. So, finding a way and not giving into the, I don't feel like it, just shut the F up and just do it anyway. If you want to actually live as long as possible and stay as healthy as you can while you're alive.
Yeah.
That is the question that you need to ask yourself. Do you want to live as long as possible and stay as healthy as possible? Because the only way to do it is to do these things that I'm talking about. Eat clean, nutrient-dense food, stay hydrated, get enough sleep, get enough exercise, and correct any nutritional deficiencies and imbalances that you might have. Now, I'm going to give some general recommendations as far as correcting nutritional deficiencies in relation to the heart, keeping in mind that if you actually do have already have a condition, you may need more than this, and it would be a better idea for me to do a specific evaluation and determine exactly what deficiencies we need to correct. So I'm going to screen share so I can talk about the different nutrients that the heart benefits from. My computer is being a jerk today. And I think I got it though. Okay. So the first one is a form of vitamin E. Can you guys see this?
Black screen so far.
Okay. No, it's not showing.
Nope. It's just literally just a black screen.
Oh, it says your screen share is loading.
There
Okay.
it is.
There it goes. Okay, so this is a form of vitamin E. It's a form of vitamin E that's an oxygen carrier. So it actually helps to deliver oxygen into your tissue, and it gives your heart a little bit of a break because it doesn't have to work as hard. So this is great if you're having palpitations, if you're having angina, which is actual like heart pain, you're feeling heart pain, your heart, because it's a muscle, it can actually cramp. So you can have heart cramps. You can have your blood flow can be stagnated, and then you may feel chest pain. So this helps symptomatically if that is occurring, and also preventatively. So I've actually been taking it for years, and I use this also as a way of staying awake when I have, let's say if I have to work super late and I'm getting tired, it just delivers more oxygen into your tissue, into your brain. So it's a way of waking up without using caffeine. And it also helps with exercise endurance because it's delivering oxygen to you. The next one I want to show you is this one called cardiotrophin. Cardiotrophin is actually heart tissue from a cow. So again, if you don't want to eat heart, this is a way of getting some material replacement parts that your heart needs to grow healthy tissue. So I take that also. This also helps with muscle, just because heart is a muscle. Your body doesn't necessarily distinguish heart cells from muscle cells when you're doing it nutritionally. This one, sorry, everything is taking so long. That's not what I want to show you. I'm going to get back to that one. This one is called B Core, and it is mostly thiamine, which is vitamin B1, and riboflavin, which is vitamin B2.
Yep.
Those two parts of the B complex, when you're deficient in them, will predispose you to heart conditions. This one is excellent for heart arrhythmias. So we put people who have arrhythmia conditions, including atrial fibrillation, onto this very often. Those conditions are being caused by a nutritional deficiency of B1 and B2. If you add solar flares to that, that's going to probably push you over the edge.
Yep.
So it is a good idea to make sure you're not deficient in B1 and B2. And yes, you can get it in food, but unfortunately, because of the quality of food,
it is
pretty
very
much
hard.
Worldwide, it's hard. And if you have a deficiency to begin with, it's hard to correct a deficiency with food alone. And there was one more heart thing I wanted to show you. I can't see. Sorry, here it is. It's called Cardio Plus, and this is like a heart multi-nutrient. It just has a little bit of everything in there. Supports the healthy functioning of heart and other muscles, circulation, antioxidants. It has actual heart in it. It has some of the riboflavin and the E that we just talked about. Also, vitamin C is important for heart. Heart loves vitamin C. I also want to mention that the heart doesn't work alone. It's part of a team. And the adrenal glands and the thyroid, I call it the HAT team, heart, adrenal, thyroid, they actually interact with each other. So for example, if you have a thyroid issue, it's going to affect your heart. If you have hyperthyroid, you can have tachycardia, meaning the heart goes too fast, or arrhythmias. So for that, we would use motherwort, but Danny can talk more about that. The adrenals and the heart affect each other. They both love vitamin C. And most people are deficient in whole food vitamin C. Yep. And there's just one other heart thing I want to talk about.
Proper vitamin C, like we just said the last time, not ascorbic acid, because ascorbic acid is not vitamin C.
Right. So if you need help finding a whole food vitamin C, if you're in the United States, it's easy enough to get it from me. Otherwise, if you're not, I can help find, or I guess both Anne and Danny probably would be able to help you in Europe. But I've gotten pretty good at doing research and trying to figure out what products are good in other countries. And this one, more than cardio support, is a bunch of enzymes along with a few other.
Protease is a really important one.
Yeah. So these enzymes help to dissolve fibrotic tissue inside the arteries. So if you already have clogged arteries, if you've already been diagnosed with atherosclerosis, this will dissolve that stuff. So it's really, really effective. And of course, one of the things I must tell you is that eating a high sugar diet is a huge contributing factor to causing that condition to begin with. Not cholesterol, but sugar eroding the lining of your arteries, which allows plaque to build up. So this dissolves the plaque, but the better thing is to not let the plaque occur to begin with.
As
Now, I
we
just
talk
want,
about diet, right? Like it's the distraction of like, oh no, don't have that butter. That'll clog your arteries. But here,
right,
have this artificial sweetener and etc., which does clog your arteries.
right. So, yeah, so I have a lot of videos on that topic. It's one of my favorite topics. I love talking about good fat and good cholesterol. And but the number one cause of heart disease is a high sugar diet, a high refined carbohydrate diet, which also causes deficiencies of things like thiamine and riboflavin. It's all connected. So the solution is not just to correct deficiencies, it's also to not eat that crap. So I want to just also talk a little bit about radiation protection, since we did touch on that as well, and the importance of that, and shared an article with us about the effects of radiation in treatment for cancer and the diseases that it causes years later. But at this point, I think that we all need to just protect ourselves from radiation, regardless of whether or not we have that kind of exposure, because there's also, in addition to the solar stuff, there's also people getting x-rays, people getting CAT scans, which is a lot of radiation. CAT scans would
MRIs.
die, right? And then even just going through scanners in airports, women getting mammograms, and just routine x-rays that people get all the time. So I try to discourage my patients from getting those procedures. And does everybody know that you don't have to go through a scanner in the airport? You can say opt out and they have to pat you down.
Yeah, the
And
problem is sometimes it takes them 2 hours to get around to
true.
patting you
So
down, and then you miss your flight.
get there early so that that doesn't happen.
Exactly.
And then you get a free massage. Once in a while they're mean. I once got punched in the privates by somebody in the middle of my pat down, but usually
What?
it's very pleasant.
Ah,
Yes.
yeah, no, yeah, no, no,
I've never gone
no.
through a scanner ever. I travel a lot. So ginkgo is an herb that actually is radioprotective. It
Ah,
ginkgo tree was the only surviving vegetation after the bombing
Hiroshima.
in Hiroshima,
Yep.
and ginkgo it additionally increases your circulation. So it's a great choice for protecting both
Yep.
your heart and protecting you from radiation, and especially increases circulation to your brain, your ears, and your eyes. And it helps. It's like what do they say? It's like putting sunshine in your brain. So it helps with cognitive issues too, which Danny mentioned can be affected by the solar flares. And I've been noticing that happening a lot, where I'm having a conversation with someone, and both of us can't say words. We
Yep.
can't just retrieve simple words. So that happened today. I had a new patient that I did an evaluation with. It was like a comedy routine, because I couldn't say a word and she would supply it, and then she couldn't say a word, and I'm like, what is going on? But it's been happening a lot. This is iodine. So iodine is also radioprotective.
Yes,
It
it is.
especially protects your thyroid from radiation. The thyroid is very vulnerable to radiation. So whether that's radiation from your cell phone, because the EMF is right there next to your thyroid, you're getting x-rays in that area, and solar flares. Your thyroid needs iodine in order to produce thyroid hormone anyway.
Yep.
And iodine protects a lot of your delicate tissue from the effects of radiation, your testicles, your breast tissue, in addition to your thyroid. So I'm just showing you, this is a middle level iodine. This is 600 micrograms of iodine, which is kind of a moderate dose. Sometimes I use a lower dose, sometimes a higher dose, depending on the individual. Iodine can have a stimulatory effect on you, especially if you're deficient. So I always tell people to take it in the morning in case it gives you energy. Better to have that in the morning. And I just think I have two more things to share here. This is a radiation detox product that I use. It's homeopathic. So Anne probably understands what's in here. It's basically, there's actually homeopathic X-ray in here, and cadmium iodatum and fucus vesculosus and uranium nitricum. So I really love this product. Any of my patients that are having CAT scans or whatever, or cancer patients that are getting radiation, I use this. I find it very effective. And this is another one that's a radiation.
Is it a liquid? I
Yeah,
was
it's a
trying to say,
liquid.
so it's a liquid, okay.
So it's really good for kids, kids and animals. It doesn't have any flavor at all.
Okay,
You
good.
just need a very small amount. And then this one is Virad Chem Binder, so it binds radiation, virus, and chemicals. So it's a detox support. That's very effective. I use this a lot too because so many people are toxic. And then the last thing I was going to share, or maybe I don't have it. Oh, yeah. So I was going to also mention, and I think we've talked about this before in this show, that when with the sun being much more damaging to your skin, taking some vitamin F protects you from sun damage to some degree. So this is the supplement with flax oil and some other stuff in there is vitamin F. And most people are deficient in vitamin F because it's primarily found in raw dairy and liver and other organ meats. So
Things that most people don't have access to.
Or refuse to eat.
So
yeah, so I just take this as insurance. I find that, you know, I can tolerate the sun better without getting a burn while I'm taking this product. Raw butter has a lot of vitamin F in it as well. So I do both things. I eat a lot of raw butter and I take this. And that is my presentation. I hope that was helpful.
Well, and you wanted to go last, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to talk just about a few things. And number one is like herbal support is one of the things that I always talk about, right? So the two main ones when we talk cardiac are motherwort, which Corey brought up, and hawthorn. If you live in England, both are readily available in whatever field is next to you. And I mean, hawthorn, we collect the flowers in the spring, and then we collect the berries in the autumn. Makes a fabulous tea. Hawthorn tea is actually really, really tasty. So it's not like one of those horrible, you're like, oh, I have to take my medicine. It's terrible. It's actually quite lovely. Both motherwort and hawthorn are very cardioprotective and very, very healing and have been used literally for hundreds and hundreds of years for treating heart problems, whether it's through old age. It's a very common one that they would give older people as they got older and the heart started to get maybe not a little bit worn out. Motherwort was one of the classic things that was given to people as a tea and as a rub, believe it or not. They used to do like an oil, kind of smash it up into oil and use it to apply directly to the chest. I have no idea if that actually worked as a topical that way, but that is one of the ways that it was applied. You can take it as a tincture. So I take hawthorn and motherwort tincture together daily. And I recommend anyone who I know of at the moment who has pre-existing heart issues, I would strongly recommend taking it regularly. If you don't like the tincture, like I said, you can buy the dried hawthorn berries, dried hawthorn blossoms, dried motherwort, very, very easy to come by. It's not expensive. And, make it into a tea, make it part of your daily routine, a little bit of extra cardio support in that way. Now, one of the other plants that no one or very few people talk about, and I always rave about, and because we're talking radiation, especially at the moment, is Herb Robert. And I knew, and look, I knew exactly what I was going. The next word that were going to come out of my mouth. Then, Herb Robert is one of the few plants that we know of that actually cleans radiation out of the soil. That has been studied. As far as medicinal studies, there is not a lot of medicine. It's a overlooked plant because it is a common weed, an invasive common weed, which makes me crack up how they can call Herb Robert invasive, because pulling it up is so easy. It's not like dandelions where if you're trying to pull them up, you're like having to dig down 1.5 feet to get to the bottom of the root. Herb Robert, here in England, anyway, in most of this area of latitude of Europe, you can get it fresh, literally almost 10 months a year. This year was a really strange year. I've had access to fresh Herb Robert for all winter. It never died off. They're small, they're little. You need a lot more of them for a good cup of tea, but it's readily available. I always recommend Herb Robert because it supports what I've seen in my own work. When I've had people, myself taking it, my husband, other friends that I've had put them on for treating various different problems, prostate, urinary problems, I swear by Herb Robert. And the same thing, there aren't a lot of studies out there on it, but I've seen the effects myself. I know how well it works for a lot of people. Now, we know it cleans radiation out of the soil, so it's my own personal hypothesis that if it cleans the radiation out of the soil, that it should do much the same for us in our bodies. And of course, one of the other things that I always talk about when we talk about radiation is C60. So C60, for those who don't know, is a naturally occurring form of carbon. It wasn't really discovered as a separate molecule, so to speak, until the 80s. And C60 is an amazing, one of its, all the things that it does is incredible. And I have on my website on Gaia's Garden, I have an entire research page on C60, so you can go and read all kinds of, I think there's about 36 or 37 scientific papers, as you can read the research. But one of the big ones is radiation, ionizing radiation. Not only, there have now been multiple studies done that not only does it have a protective effect against ionizing radiation, that it actually, while it's protecting, it's actually fixing radiation damage that has already been done. So when we talk about things like the sun, just simply sunburns, I laugh because when I first started making the C60, which was back 2016 is when I first started making it, I had a shoulder injury. So I was rubbing the black seed oil with C60 in it into my shoulder all the time. And earlier that summer, I had broken my foot. So, of course, I'm massaging my foot with black seed oil and C60. And then I went on a day trip with a friend of mine who was visiting from the States, and we went on a boat for the day. Needless to say, when you live in the Mediterranean in August and you go on a boat for the day, sunburns. And I had a very pink bit of nose. My nose was a bit pink. My one shoulder was quite sunburnt. My one foot was quite sunburnt. But I had the other shoulder and the other foot that I was putting the C60 on regularly. Absolutely nothing. Like nothing. There was no burn. There was just nothing. And because I use, I make a facial serum that has C60 in it, what should have been a screaming, peeling, Ronald McDonald red nose was a little bit pink, and that was about it. And that was when I was like, okay, this, like, when we talk about radiation protection, that is one of your biggest tests is solar radiation. So it literally does help protect your skin externally, but it also internally helps to give radio protection as well. So,
and chemical and metal detox also it does.
yes, it does. And I wasn't even going to go, like, literally, it lowers your blood sugar levels. It is for treating diabetes. It lowers blood pressure.
I take it every day.
Yeah.
I take everything every day.
So
if you want to look like this when you're sick, I'll be 61 in a few weeks. Just do what I do.
There you go. There you go. So those are the few things that I just wanted to talk about. There's a pile more, like, literally, but my brain's just done a fart and gone, what was I going to say? But water, like I said, water, 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 water. And I can't stress as much as, like, what Corey's been saying. Like, it's what we feed our bodies. And unfortunately, we've kind of turned into a society where we want everything treated with a pill. You got a problem, you give me a pill, I'll take the pill. I'm not going to change anything about my lifestyle. I'm just going to take this pill. And that doesn't work. Like, we need to not, we have to break that habit. We have to break that thinking pattern and start removing the things that are really, really bad out of our lives. Things like the chemicals that are just in our food, the average chemicals of stuff, because all of that weakens your overall system. And if you're trying to support your overall body that's going through a little bit of the ringer at the moment with all the solar stuff, and by the way, the solar stuff is only going to be getting worse. Like, this is not something that's going to be getting better anytime in the next, magically, the next 10 years. So we need to start taking proactive steps now to change lifestyle things. Get up off our butts, get more exercise, drink more water, eat less sugar and less chemicals. So yeah. So I'm gonna throw it over to Anne now, because Anne's got a bunch of stuff she wants to talk about. She's been the silent partner over here. She's been waiting. Okay, the stage is yours.
Yeah. And I've been kicked off Zoom twice so far, so I hope my
I know. So everyone cross your fingers that Zoom stays and keeps Anne on with us.
And can you let me share screen? Yeah.
Well, everyone, we're back again. See, we started to record Anne's section of the video for our Wellness Naturally video, and Anne's internet was shockingly bad. So this is our third attempt. Anne's in her office today. So we're going to start right from the top and say, Anne, thank you for coming back. And now we can, here, let me make you co-host. And so you can do your presentation again, this time without all the freezing and the dropping.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Hope I remember what I said the last time. That's always a challenge. Okay, dokie. So here we go again. Homeopathy for the heart, blood, and circulatory system. Now, my aim with the bits of homeopathy that I throw into these chats is that for you to have just a couple of first aid remedies on hand that are multi-purpose, easy to come by, and very easy to use, right? So for any of you who've listened to anything I've said before, you'll be familiar with the first one and the second one, aconite and arnica. And they both are what we call in homeopathy polycrests. That means they have a huge range of action, wide range of action. And they're well worth having, even if you're not going to, expand your use of homeopathy. These two are super. So, okay, so with aconite actually we'd often see I think we're seeing a lot of aconite now. So this is the kind of palpitations with fear and anxiety that are not actually, if you go to the ER, they'll tell you there's nothing wrong in most of these cases. It's a reaction, I reckon, to the cosmic stuff, the solar stuff that Danny was talking about earlier. So you will, in some cases, see this tachycardia, which is very, very fast heartbeat, 100 plus beats per minute. You will always have, with aconites, you will always have anxiety. So that's what I can say about aconite. Arnica, and you know arnica well. I'm blue in the face talking about it, really. It's a brilliant remedy. I didn't there's a very short story about arnica. I was away and came back to Dublin Airport to one of those horrible messages: would passenger Callahan pick up the nearest emergency telephone? And it was to tell me to go directly to hospital, that my mother had a stroke and she was in hospital. I don't know where I was, teaching somewhere. I had a bottle of arnica, nothing much more with me, went directly to hospital. She was completely paralyzed down the left-hand side, face drop, arms, leg, etc. No speech. And I started her on arnica straight away. Absolutely. Well, at that point, she, it was, I don't know, probably about 10 hours after the onset. And everything reversed. I mean, all of the paralysis reversed. She got her speech back, and they couldn't believe it in the hospital. They really didn't think that she would make that kind of recovery. And I reckon that was all down to the arnica. It was a private hospital, so they wrote it into her medication, and she was given it on an hourly basis for the first day, and then reduced after that. So brilliant remedy to have in cases where you think there might be stroke going on. Angina pectoris, very often a precursor to a heart episode, pain, severe pain in the elbow of the left arm. Stitches in the heart, cardiac dropsy, extremities distended. The feeling of being bruised. I was saying, Danny, this is a word that we associate. And this is how you take shortcuts in homeopathy. You have these key words that are associated with remedies. So with aconite, you think of shock. With arnica, you think of bruising. So when someone says that they feel that they have this bruised pain, they're sore, bruised, these are words that you associate with muscle injury as well. The heart is a muscle. And arnica is a #1 remedy for muscle issues. Now, their mental emotional state is quite different to aconite. The arnica will often say, don't touch me, leave me alone, I'm okay. Or they'll have this kind of indifference, but you won't see the kind of anxiety that you'll see with aconite. Now, the third remedy here is one I haven't mentioned before, cactus grandifolium. It is an acute heart attack remedy, and it is one given in a 30C potency, that if you have somebody who's at risk, who may well, be impacted by some of these solar events, it's a very good idea for them to carry this remedy with them. That and cayenne pepper, I guess. But what they will feel, cactus, if you think about a cactus, it's spiky. This doctrine of signatures wise, you can expect that the pains of cactus almost feel like being, having the spikes put in you, constriction in the chest, palpitation down the left arm, melancholy and fear of death is to be expected. If you feel you're having a heart attack, that's sort of sensible. But cactus is great. It's a great first, these are first aid remedies. This is something. First aid is simply about maintaining life until you get more help, if you like. So cactus is something that you will be pumping into someone en route to hospital if it doesn't abort the attack straight away. Then you would just give it until you got to a place where you got more help. I always talk too fast when I'm doing these things. Corey, I have to learn from you. You're very good at kind of at the pace of which you impart the information. Anyhow.
You're just fine, Anne. Don't worry.
I
don't think you're talking too fast at all.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Okay, so Crataegus, I was just laughing and saying, you know, Danny, I put all of that down about Crataegus because Danny, of course, makes the most amazing hawthorn tinctures. And this is the homeopathic proving of Crataegus brought out these symptoms, all the symptoms of a very weak and under-functioning heart. The heart muscles seem flabby. It's just, this is a heart that's going flip, flip, flip. It's really not in good shape at all. And the interesting thing that I actually hadn't realized either, said to have a solvent power upon crustaceous and calcareous deposits in the arteries.
Oh, interesting.
And considering that, you know, considering what people are finding, the clot shot is messing up people's circulatory systems no end. This is a very good remedy to consider, either in a homeopathic form or, you know, as a herbal tincture. And then I put in kaolin muir here because it's part of this combination remedy that is often advised for people who have clotting issues, who have thick blood, a tendency to that kind of thing. And the kaolin muir is about regulating the fibrin in the blood, so that it doesn't, so you know, so that the blood can be broken. See, am I going?
No.
So let me start that again. It's well, you just read what it says there. Without the right balance of potassium chloride, fibrin, which is a clot former or coagulant, cannot be made or broken down or kept in proper solution. So it's a regulator. And
I very often put people with things like high blood pressure, which is a symptom of some of these issues, especially the cardiac dropsy can cause high blood pressure. I put them on both hawthorn and potassium together. Good. Yeah. So, and just to let everybody know, if you don't want to use a tincture or taste it or don't want to make it, if you're in the US, I have it in tablets. Yep. Everything we're talking about, I have in tablet, except motherwort, I only have in liquid, but just for anybody in the US that's watching that needs those things, I can supply them.
Sure. Okay, so the combination remedy is usually used in a 6x potency. So this means that we have molecules. Again, for those of you who watched the earlier episodes we did on homeopathy and potency, an X dilution is a 1 part to it's a 1 in 10 dilution, right? So there are still molecules, but we're only talking molecules of the original substances in this combination. So you can take this 3 times a day, if you like, to start out with, morning, noon, and night, and keep it going. A potency like this can be taken over a long period of time without approving, usually. So it's a safe one to repeat.
Yeah, I know it's something that people need to be aware of, that homeopathy isn't something to be taken regularly. It isn't something that we should take on a daily basis.
Not like a supplement.
No, it's not like a supplement, because then you can, and I've done it, you can remember I did this to myself back in Malta, where I was taking something regularly and I ended up creating the proving in my own body. And it was like, well, we're not supposed to do that, are we? No.
The idea with homeopathy is it's like a drain rod. It acts like a drain rod to just unblock your own energy, to get your own energy moving again. So once you've unblocked a drain, you don't have to unblock it a second time. You wait until it starts to close off again, and then you give it another dose. Yeah. So that's how you gauge the repetition of the dose on return of symptoms.
So question, Anne, in that case, with the combination remedy, would any of these symptoms that you described qualify for somebody to take that remedy for a while until the symptoms subsided? So whether that's tachycardia or angina,
Yeah.
any of those. Okay,
Yeah,
got
absolutely.
it. Mhm.
And you know what we've been saying over the in this the course of this talk, that it's really the incoming energies are just going to keep aggravating people with heart issues. They are.
Yep.
So we've all got to get on top of our heart and circulatory health. It's in, you know,
Yes,
there's no way around it now.
yes.
Right. So the other part of our talk, that was the heart part. And now we're talking about EMF exposure and radiation and EMF exposure. The first remedy I want to talk about is one that I think we absolutely all have to have in our first aid kits: radium bromide. Given that all kinds of earth changes are likely to happen, anybody who is anywhere close to a nuclear plant could be exposed to radiation. In was it September 1993, one morning, all my phones started ringing off the hook, and all my patients were ringing up and saying, I don't know what's happened. I've got all my symptoms back. It's like I never took the remedy. And I was going, what the heck is going on? And I rang another friend, homeopath friend, and she came over, and the same thing was happening to her. All our patients were saying, my remedy's not working. I don't know what's going on. I feel very strange. And we said, okay, so this has to be environmental. There's something environmental going on here, and it's widespread. This is not a localized environmental thing, because these patients were coming all over the east coast of Ireland. And the next thing that happened was I was asked to see this woman who had a serious flu. And she said, she was a nurse, a very solid kind of character, you know. She said, I have never, ever had anything like this. She had burning in her throat, in her chest, and she was incredibly restless. She couldn't, you know, she said, I have pains in my bones, in all of my joints. She couldn't get ease in any place. She was fevering. And I didn't know what to give her, because I thought, she looks like a bit like arsenicum, a bit like Ristox, a bit like eupatorium, but she wasn't any of those totally. So I gave her a couple of remedies to try, and I just thought, I haven't got it. I don't know what that is. And later on in the same week, we were still like going, what the fuck? What is going on? And there was like 2 lines in the Irish Times saying that Sellafield had emitted close to half of its annual allowance. And when I went and checked the weather, the fallout had come right across the Irish Sea, boom, into the East Coast. You're muted, Danny.
For those that don't know, Sellafield is a nuclear power plant here in England. And it had released it, and it just blew right across into Ireland.
Yeah. And the thing about that flu lady that I saw was that she had just come across from Holyhead. She'd come across from England on the boat. She spent the journey on deck. I reckon she went right through it. So she had acute radiation flu. So what we started seeing then were people with less acute versions. She was the most acute. The rest that we saw were mostly people who had this spasmodic cough, burning. This was the thing that they'd say, you know, kind of burning in my chest. A lot of them had itching and rashes. And then we realized this is radiation. You know, this is radiation. And that's when I started using radium bromide. And it was absolutely incredible. It was just like, boom.
Gone.
So that's why I'm saying, you know, people with Earth's changes coming up, if there's any likelihood you could be exposed to radiation, this is a remedy to have in your kit. It is amazing. And as a side note, this journalist rang me up and he said, I hear you're treating a radiation flu with radium bromide. I said, yeah. So I talked to him for a little while anyway. It was just a local paper, think anything of it. And I went off and I was teaching homeopathy in Finland, as it turned out. And when I came back, RTE, who's the Irish version of the BBC, rang me up and said they wanted me to talk on air about radiation flu and radium bromide. It was amazing. Now that happened in 93. That wouldn't happen now. There, you just would not get that exposure. They would not do it now. Anyhow, that's beside the point. So that was the most, thinking about the kind of bug out situation, or how very compromised a lot of our nuclear
very, very, very,
are.
very, very, very compromised.
Sellafield is barely holding. Sellafield, for those of you who are not in Ireland, are not local, is it had a terrible eruption. The year I was born, 1957, just after I was born in August, it happened in October. They had a dreadful eruption. And a lot of people on the west coast or the east coast of Ireland developed cancers after that. And infertility was another huge thing. So it's been problematic forever. And it's not even ours. We just get it. We just get the fallout.
Just more shit from the English, that's all.
Yeah.
Chernobyl happened when I was pregnant, and my son was born with a genetic disorder, and apparently it's a rare disorder. Apparently there were more people born with that disorder post Chernobyl than in the past.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, yeah, radiation travels in funny ways.
Yes,
that's
it
the other
does.
thing, very funny ways. So there are times when I feel, oh, there's radiation around, but you can't find, where from necessarily.
Yeah.
Other remedies that I'm just putting up there as examples or ideas. We have electricity, loss of memory. That's affecting us all these days. Anxiety, chest and arms stiff, frightful pains in the arms and lower legs. So a lot of us have those symptoms at the moment. So possibly due to the electromagnetic stuff. But it's one to keep in mind if this becomes a problem. Again, with these, for best results, I would say just consult a homeopath, because these are only tiny bits of information. Yeah. And to get a full picture, you need a longer, a lot more information and a longer consultation. X-ray, the neck is where the stiffness shows up generally, and this feeling of being sick and tired, so if someone has had a lot of X-rays for some reason or other and never has just, has felt sick, we have a thing in homeopathy called never been well since. It's an etiology. I've never been well since I had those X-rays. If someone says that to you, I've never been well since I've had those X-rays, that's a remedy to look at.
Would you include CT scans?
Yeah.
Because they have even more radiation than X-rays. And
MRIs,
I definitely have patients that have said that to me. I've never been well since I had all those scans. Yeah.
There is now a radiation combination as well, which is available from Helios. And it is, it's got various things in it, TV, microwave. And you might be wondering, these are, in homeopathy, what we call the imponderables. So the sucrose lactose is exposed to microwave and TV rays.
You don't just grind up microwaves and put it in to make a remedy. No, there's no TVs in it. It's
but there are many others. I'd be interested to know, we have a remedy, Sol, which is sun's rays, which was made a long time ago. I think that probably needs to be upgraded. I don't know when it was
interesting for someone to do an upgrade and take a look at both.
Yeah, it would.
Like a brand new proving. You'd really want to do a brand new proving on that.
Yeah. It's it's in Clark, so it was probably done around the early 1900s.
Yeah.
So it's a long time ago.
Definitely needs to be redone.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a race through that part of it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is just moving to some of the energy tools. We were saying We have no control over what's coming our way from outer space. We can't stop that necessarily. But the best thing that we can do is make sure that our energetic environment, as well as our physical, mental, emotional environment, is the best that we can make it. So these are some of the rocks and tools that are useful. Shungite, which has fullerenes in it, these are very, I mean, there's really, you can't quote science on any of these, but people find them useful.
Yep.
The theory about shungite is that it corrects the spin of the torsion field. This is a field created by the form of an object or by the spin of elementary particles as defined in quantum physics. And you'd want to see Kozyrev to understand that a bit better. But anyway, so he talks about this torsion field. And when the torsion field is spinning to the left, the energy is disordered or distorted. And when it's spinning to the right, it's life-giving. So the notion is that shungite can correct this spin. That when we encounter disorganizing energies or frequencies, which is, what EMF and various radiations, they distort our frequency, that all of these tools here can reorder our frequency, bring it into order, into that left or to that right spin again. So the notion of, people talk about EMF protection, and sometimes people think it's like, oh, okay, I can have a wall around me. It's not that, actually. The EMFs distort our frequency. So what we're looking for are tools that are going to help us regain homeostasis as quickly as possible. Regain that regain that right spin as quickly as possible. That is how they protect us, if you like. So pyrite, it's a fool's gold. It normally forms in cubes. It's one of the few. It has very protective. I have essences made with shungite, pyrite, and hematite. I'm going to make black tourmaline. Haven't done it yet. But these are, I'm playing around with them as combinations for EMF exposure. The hematite is very grounding and very protective. Hematite in the 1920s was used as a mirror. It was cut into slabs. It will reflect energy back to a certain extent,
yep.
As well as drawing energy down. So it's very protective. And tourmaline seems to be almost at least as good as shungite when it comes to neutralizing. People have done tests with those EMF readers, and they put them, if you put the tourmaline between yourself and the source of the Wi-Fi or whatever, the tourmaline has a very positive response, which is interesting. I didn't realize that it was as good as shungite, or almost as good as shungite. Now, the two at the bottom, I feel are, okay, so the one L90, the work of Dr. Ibrahim Karim, I feel that is very, very interesting stuff, and good for us to be looking at, right? Ibrahim Karim there's a lot, you can go to that website, Biogeometry in California. You can download research papers and PDFs and so on the work that he did in Switzerland, which was really, really interesting. Cell phone company put up a tower, and people started experiencing headaches and sickness and stuff like that. And they petitioned the mayor or whatever to do something about it. And Dr. Ibrahim Karim came and essentially sorted out the energy of the village. People's symptoms went away and they started to feel really good. So it's work that I think we would be, it would do us good to look into.
I just want to mention, I have a video about that called Can the Energy in Your Home Be Making You Sick?
Yeah.
And I have a patient that goes into people's homes and businesses and does the biogeometry evaluation. And the picture that you have there of those little things that they stick them on different walls. And so they came in and did my office. I think I mentioned this yesterday, I'm not sure. They did my office in preparation for the video. I interviewed them on the video so that I could report any, changes that I saw. These women are available definitely in the US, but they travel all over the place doing this. If you actually want somebody to come in and do an assessment and correct the energy, it's really fascinating.
Yeah, it is. They're looking at architecture, and as we move into talking about it, a bit about feng shui, we have got to start, regulating, helping to maintain positive, life-affirming energies in our spaces. We really have to. Organite similar, see the work of Wilhelm Reich. That is a kind of fussy piece of Organite. I'm not necessarily into Organite that is that fussy. That's one I made myself, which is basically, it's iron filings and a bit of quartz. It's organic and inorganic material layered. Again, it's about rebalancing the dead orgone energy, the door, I think it was, Reich called it, with.
And it doesn't have to be pretty.
Right.
They don't have to.
It doesn't have.
I have an ugly. I have an ugly one. I have an ugly
Yeah.
one that looks like that, except it's not colorful. Yeah.
Oh.
That's beautiful. I love that one.
Yeah, it is pretty to look at. So yeah, there's masses of information available online about Organite. And again, it's, I think these things are worth looking at. Make your own, draw your own conclusions about how well they help you. But yeah, it's worth having a look at.
I just also want to mention I have a video specifically about EMF protection, and I interviewed an expert, and he had some very low cost recommendations, things that you could make yourself to protect even like your bed while you're sleeping.
Yep.
And things like that. So that's more resources on this topic.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So when I was looking at this, I thought, this is, if you could fractal this out, it's everything. We have been desensitized to an extent that we don't even know how bad the energy in our house or our surroundings is. If you just feel into the energy of those two different shapes and see which one feels more comfortable, which one feels more appealing, to me anyway, the flow of the one in top is the one that makes me feel like energy is moving, and it feels soft and it feels safe, and it feels like an energy that I'd like to be with. Now, for me, the energy at the bottom, the box, the sharp edges. Sharp edges in feng shui, you shouldn't have sharp-edged furniture. It gives off lines of energy. And very sensitive beings, very sensitive children particularly, find it really disturbing to be around energy that is, to be around sharp-edged furniture. It's nasty as well. How many times have you banged yourself on a sharp-edged table?
And all the modern, everything modern.
Yeah.
This is one of my things is and I rant about this on the show all the time, of course, but everything modern is sharp-edged, and it's gone to the minimalist. They call it the minimalist.
It's brutalist. That's what it is.
It's brutalist is actually a really great word for it. And the more I look, the more I'm just like, there's literally virtually nothing that was being created after about 1930 that I like. Like whether you're talking furniture, we talk architecture, we talk even to clothing. Like there was, even in the clothing, there was a beauty, and it was all about flow, etc. And we don't see this. There's no beauty, and it is stark.
Yeah.
Like it is really, really stark in here in England. You drive through a little old town, and the buildings, even though they can be run down, it's not in a good part of town, but the actual architecture of the buildings is so beautiful.
Mm.
And then when you go to, like, say, Birmingham, and the downtown area, and it's all glass and steel and concrete, and it is so ugly.
It's
like,
alien,
I can feel it. Like I'm repugnated by it.
Yeah,
It is repugnant. It is just like, oh no.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, for me, that the feng shui that I learned was very simple, intuitive. It's called intuitive feng shui. It's not complicated like you can be very complicated by feng shui. But actually, this is simply about how does it make you feel? Does that expand your energy or contract your energy?
Yep.
And that's the way you have to look at your entire, your entire environment. Does that contract your energy or does that expand your energy?
Yep.
And that's really, they're just the guiding principles. Now, for those of you who might want to go a little bit further, this is what's known as the Bagua. And in this very simplified version, you just align with your front door. And then you divide your house into those various regions. And my advice is, sometimes people go, oh my God, I have to do this, and this. It's not a good idea to tackle more than one area at a time, usually. And the best thing to do is to look at the various sectors and say, okay, so where am I having, what's the biggest problem in my life at the moment? What do I want to shift on? For most people, it's between love and money. That seems to be number one, love or money. And the thing to do when you choose the sector and you have overlaid, you can overlay that diagram on a base, ground plan of your home and see where, what's happening in that area. And very often you will find, if it's an area you're having a lot of trouble in, it's where you chuck everything. It's where you put all the rubbish. It's where you don't clear out stuff. It's where, where you have the dead plants, where you have, or, things that are
the place where you don't want to go. It's the place you don't want to be in, the room you don't want to be in.
Exactly. So, and these are tools, of course, we know everything is formed by intention. And this is just a tool to bring your attention to parts of your life that could do with a bit of a chisel,
A chisel. I like that.
Chisel.
Yeah. Some just need a dusting. Some need a chisel.
Yeah. And of course, you can apply this Bagua to anything. You can apply it to a room. You can fractal it down if you like, or I could apply it to this desk. So if I was to apply it to this desk with that crystal and me wood dragon, I should be definitely married again. But that's not happening anyway. Anyhow, so yeah, I just love feng shui. And again, for me, it's just about, becoming conscious of the space that I'm inhabiting and just not letting things build up until they become a big problem. Because what happens, as we know with energy medicine, when your frequency, we all have, we have our own, we're all individuals, we have our own frequency, and we have that best potential and our sick potential. And what happens if you live in your sick potential for a long time, that energy, that frequency change will somatize in your physical body and you'll produce physical symptoms. If you don't deal with the energetic disturbance, you are dis-ease, if you like, you will end up with physical symptoms. So some enhancements. I love, these are just things, and again, we've sort of touched on a lot of this, about having natural stuff around us, having kinetic light and fire, bring the elements into our house. If you haven't got a fireplace, candles. I love prismatic crystals. I have them always hanging in my windows, and they bring rainbow light into your room. Actually, it looks like Corey's sitting in one at the moment. There's some kind of rain.
I have a skylight and the sun is passing over it.
Ah, nice. Yeah, sunlight, bringing light into our rooms is really, really important.
It is.
Together. And having this rainbow light moving around your room is quite magical. I love that. Having water of some sort, moving water. It's not, you know, you can make tiny little water features. They don't have to be big things. And plants, of course, bringing nature indoors. And it needs to be nature that's alive, not dead plants.
That goes into that, like I talk about, like what resonates with you is like some people are like, I can remember like someone saying, oh, you must have a what is it called, like they call them the snake plants as well, the long palmish type leaf, and it's very sharp on the top, and I'm like, I don't like that plant. I've never liked that. It poked me. My grandma had one and it poked me when I was a little girl. I've never liked them since. Pick the things that you love. Like this is bring the love that you have, whether it's a certain herb, a certain plant, a flower, bring it into the house and cherish it there, because that's, you're bringing that love energy back in. That's what resonates for you. So bring that energy into your house.
Yeah. And it is the easiest way to get out of a bad humor is to really stare at something that you love. And it can be animals, but plants, flowers, anything that makes you feel that, again, that expands your energy. Anything that expands your energy will help you feel a bit better.
Yep.
When I water my plants and the leaves start to go like this, I feel like they're waving hello at me, and it makes me feel good to look at them.
Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. That's enough of that. If I can figure out how to stop sharing. Can't move my mouse. Okay.
Look at the very top. It should. Well, no, you're on a Mac, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Stop sharing.
There we go. There we go. Thank you for that. You know what? That was a good reminder for me, Anne, because beauty in my living space has been greatly lacking for quite a long time. And I find the craving, I have this craving for like pretty like pieces of beauty that I want to bring into my house, and I have none of it right now. And I think that that's a really important point. And I think I have to, even if it's not like big things, is look for some little things that are beautiful that to put around my desk. So my desk is 100% functional, and that's it. Like there is like zero beauty in my workspace, none. And I need to change that.
Yeah,
I absolutely need to change that.
Yeah. And bringing in things with this is, you know, these shells and things, these are.
I love those. Yes.
Look at that natural. Oh, God almighty. Anne, where's your brain? Do you know, I think I stopped having a brain about 20 years ago. Sometimes I look at things like 20 years ago and went, what happened? Anyhow, that is, what does golden mean? That's it.
The golden ratio. Yeah.
Yeah. Golden mean. So bringing these kind of energies, it's just lovely. And my little dragon, hello dragon.
Yeah, I need to refix my space. I really
do, Danny. You do. We all do. But it's a good reminder for all of us.
It is a good reminder.
You know,
it is a good.
Where are you stuck? What do you want to change? Have a look. And see what you can do. There's millions of messages. I can't read any of them because I cannot get the blinking. Oh, here it's moving now.
Oh, everyone's just chit-chatting. A good pour. Well, is it like Paul said, restricted space? When you're in a restricted space, when you're in, for example, for us, we're in a rented space, so therefore you have very limited things that you can do. But you know what? I think it starts. It's good. Like what you just said about plants. Well, my problem is I have one cat who eats plants. All plants all the time, and it's almost seedling season. I have to get all my seeds planted for this summer, and I've been literally trying to figure out how am I going to keep her from because last year she ate all my seedlings. I had everything, all my little veggies, all seed coming up, and she ate every one of them.
Maybe inside your house you could get those ceiling hooks that you can hang plants from the ceiling. She probably wouldn't be able to get to those.
That's I'm gonna have to be inventive this year. I am definitely gonna be.
Chicken wire for your seedlings.
It's not for the chickens, it's for my cat. Or maybe I could just lock her somewhere, like out of the room. But yeah, like go buy a nice plant. Even better, grow a nice plant. And like I said, if something around you, if we can just put little things, and it's like go to the beach and find rocks. I mean, I'm a rock collector, right? Like I'm a complete rock hound, so I have rocks from every place I've ever visited. I always pick up stones. If that's what floats your boat, put them out, put something somewhere where you can see them. Don't just have them back in a storage box.
I want to see if I can show you my lovely table here that I stare at all the time. I have
nice,
really cool stuff on there.
Nice.
A lot of it's from my mom. My mom was an artist, and she collected beautiful things.
Nice.
I have that all over my house, things that are beautiful.
And that's I think, yeah, sometimes we become too utilitarian, and I mean that happens too when it's a money situation. When you're making choices between buying groceries or buying a candlestick, we all, the groceries are going to win, right? But like little things, they don't have to be expensive. Yeah. No, thank you, Anne. Thank you. No, you've just galvanized me. I do have to do something about that. I'm like, literally, I'm not even going to turn this camera around because if you saw my workspace, everyone would go. So I'm not going to turn the camera around. But you know what I do? I need to take everything apart. Maybe that's my weekend job this weekend.
Yeah.
Take everything apart, organize it, clean it, make it look nice.
And I think I need to draw some pink hearts and put them around my house.
Yeah.
There's a little.
It's the little things. People, whether it's true or not, I don't know. Sometimes I used to do it, but I don't do it anymore. Putting paired objects in. If you're looking at the love corner, for instance, Corey, you can have paired objects. It's really interesting, actually. Sometimes when I do feng shui, I don't do it often, but I do enjoy it, actually, because there was one person who was, I'll never get in a relationship. Oh, God, it's awful. Go to their relationship corner and they've got cacti in it. Okay. Well, I don't think that's going to work.
Well, there's a statement to the universe right there. Yes.
I want a relationship, but no, I don't. Not really.
Okay, well, my darlings, because I know that Corey's on a very, very limited time. So, thank you guys for coming back so we could actually finish our presentation, because it was, internet and proton storms are not fun. They're not fun at all. Besides the technology of our bodies, the other thing that is, of course, hugely affected by solar radiation and geomagnetics is the technology that we're using to communicate with right now. So as anyone's noticed, the internet has gotten shockingly bad for a lot of us over the last week, especially. And this is another thing where I keep saying, guys, internet's just going to be getting worse and worse, and technology, things like, your GPS doesn't quite want to work, and can't get your computer to talk to your printer. They don't want to talk anymore. And those are all effects that we see through solar activity. And it becomes quite often, quite obvious that when you look at certain things, and I could literally many times go, right, having a problem with something Wi-Fi related, I'll go look at the solar stuff and see what's going on and go, oh, right, we're in a solar storm right now.
But along those lines, a lot of us are in denial about the effects of being on these devices all the time has on the body. So one of the things that we didn't talk about at all, which I don't know how much you know about this, is protecting yourself from electromagnetic fields. And I have various different devices to protect me from devices, you know, and then someday I'll probably have other devices to protect me from those. But, you know, things that you can put on your phone, on your computer that actually work. So, and then I have a scalar energy pyramid that actually makes a huge difference in the, like, you can, I have it in my bedroom. You can feel the difference in the magnetic field when you walk into the room with the scalar energy pyramid.
Organite. Organite is another one. And
Yep.
Of course,
yep.
the lovely shungite is another one. I always have
Shungite
all over the place.
Yep.
This is Anne makes a essence, because besides being a homeopath, Anne is also a world-class essence maker. And I swear by Anne's shungite essence. Almost all of my skincare products have got Anne's shungite essence in them. And I literally, it's one of my go-tos. It's one of my go-tos. There is an immediate calm when I'm feeling that kind of whoosh all over the place. Taking the shungite essence makes an instant and massive difference. So yes, Paul. Paul also recommends Anne shungite tincture or essence, as it's called. Yeah. No, this is the problem. Technology is we all know about the dangers of Wi-Fi. And when we talk about EMF is another energy that when we talk about solar stuff, EMF is another energy frequency that is planetary, if you will, but it has all the same types of very negative ramifications to our bodies. And this is, again, something that mainstream science doesn't want to talk about, because if they were to ever admit to these things, then guess what? They would be liable for all the lovely lawsuits that would come around, because, oh, look, you just put all those towers up all around my house, and now we have high frequency power lines, and we have radio waves, etc. And these things are all shockingly bad for us.
All part of the plan, I think, to weaken us and keep us sick. But that leads me to something that we didn't mention, which is the pulsed electromagnetic field therapy.
Yep.
That is widely available. So it's the acronym is PEMF. It's not an acronym, it's an abbreviation, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. And I have a mat for myself that I lay on. I have one for my patients that they can come in and use in my office. I have one for my dog. So the benefit of using something like that is that you're actually exposing yourself to the normal frequency of planet Earth, the Schumann resonance, so to speak, which is 7 point something hertz.
Yeah, I know, but that's fluctuating all over the place right now.
It is,
so
but
there you go.
the normal frequency of planet Earth. So that's something that I don't talk about enough, because the normal frequency of planet Earth is actually a healing frequency, and I feel like we were meant to have exposure to it, and that's what grounding is. Where you walk barefoot on natural surfaces, which is what we are meant to do. I think we started this conversation talking about shoes for dogs.
Exactly.
And shoes for humans actually prevent you from having contact with the Earth frequency that is healing. So if you are able to walk barefoot on natural surfaces, you should do that as often as you can. It's a little bit challenging to do that here in New York City. So the solution is to have another way of exposing yourself to the good frequency. The cell phone frequency is hundreds of thousands of hertz, which is not biologically normal.
Yeah.
And the normal frequency is somewhere around 7. So just to contrast that,
and magnetic therapies are really, really important. Like there's actually some of the best studies that are being done right now on talking about literally magnetic therapy is out of Japan. They're one of the few people who are actually openly studying healing using magnets. We have an Anne trying to come back. Anne, come back to us, Anne.
And I just want to say that the PMF also increases your microcirculation. So it's also good for heart health and other, just generally better circulation is better for everything. Yeah.
Hi, Anne.
Welcome back.
There she is. Hi, Anne. Yeah, guys, I don't think that we're going to be able to finish Anne's part of this presentation. I think I will tomorrow morning. I will get on a call with Anne tomorrow morning, and we will finish off the last part of what she wants. Yeah, she's gone. That's just not going to work. So I will get in contact with Anne. I will have her walk through the last bit of her presentation. And I guess any questions that you have for Anne from this show, we can ask on the next show. For the moment, though, I am going to close off our public part of the discussion. And the members will hang around and we will do question and answer. Anyone has any questions. And I will see everyone for the next show, which we haven't scheduled yet, but we will soon. When we talk, you guys can see the image, right? So this is obviously a cartoon. This is just to give an idea. So in Earth, the blue lines that we see around Earth are what we call the magnetic field. And you can see it's a torus shape, right? It's that donut shape. When these rays hit, for example, so this is obviously supposed to be the sun, and you can see it's highly charged particles at the front. And then when our geomagnetic shield is really strong, you can see that those rays will go kind of around the planet and out the back. But what happens is, we'll look at that one in a second. Hold on. I need, no. Yes. Okay. So I pulled these up. These are examples of stuff from 2019. It's just because I pulled them up to be able to make an example to show you guys if anyone wanted to talk about this. This is from, I think, October or September or October of 2019. These are graphs that show, these top ones up here show the magnetopause, the magnetosphere. These down here show the solar wind speeds. And the colors are the indicator of the power, the strength, the intensity. So these ones are really good because they kind of show you what happens. So you can see the sunlight is coming in from what would be the right. So from over here. And you can see how it bends, the energy bends around the magnetic shell, if you will, of the planet. But when we get hit with really high intensity beams, what we have happen is this. Now, if you look here and you can see this, these blue lines are what we call the IMF, and the black lines are our magnetic shield lines. Now, obviously, again, this is a representation of the data. It is not an actual picture, right? This was a major solar blast that we had come in. They ripped the magnetic lines. You can see the black lines are broken. It actually broke some of the magnetic field lines. And that red, instead of being out front here, then comes streaming into the poles. Okay? Because if it comes in, it's a torus shape. It goes up the southern and the northern poles. So those energies go in and they go right into the planet. When we talk about those kind of energies coming in and hitting the planet, that is charging the whole planet. It doesn't matter if you're sun facing or if you're facing the dark side. It doesn't matter because that amount of energy coming in affects the entire planetary system. So it's just an idea just to kind of explain a little bit? Does that, I hope that gives a little bit of a visual for people, make it a little easier to understand. And the other thing is, of course, when we talk about the sun, we think of our geomagnetic shield as being this lovely, nice, neat, tidy little thing like this. But in actual fact, that's what our geomagnetic shield kind of looks like, with the blue being the northern pole and the orange being the southern pole. And you get these ridiculous tie-ups, and you get all these little snarl pieces, and you can have magnetic forces that pop. And that's one of our leading theories, is the reason when we see these mass migrations, you have a bunch of dolphins or whales or tortoises all of a sudden beaching themselves. And that's my hypothesis has been, is when the geomagnetics do one of those snaps, it throws off their internal guidance systems. And we were in Morocco, we were on the beach one day, and there was a lot of activity. This was in 2014. There was a lot of crazy solar activity going on. And we had an octopus, a good-sized octopus, desperately trying to swim right up onto the beach. And my kids kept taking it and gently taking it back out into the deep water, and it would turn around and come straight back and try to swim up onto the beach. We had a sunfish that was dying that we tried to rescue, and it was just so big. I mean, if you've ever seen sunfish, like this one was about 1.5 meters long, massive. And we tried to get it back in, and the fishermen who were on the pier said, it's all, by the time it's this point, it's too late. And I think that is their own magnetic sensors, which tell them which way to swim, which way to fly, etc., or all of a sudden get caught in those tangles, and they end up going in the wrong direction.